Imagine this scene. A vast square in the heart of Paris. The winter is bitterly cold. People have gathered from every corner. Eyes are fixed, hearts are pounding, and the king himself is seated, watching closely. Before them stand two knights clad in heavy armor, steel glimmering under a shy winter sun. One carries his honor, his family's dignity, and the tears of his wife. The other carries his pride, the power of his lords, and the confidence of the court. In just moments, they will hurl themselves at one another, with swords, with lances, with their horses, and only one man will leave this field alive. This is not an ordinary fight, nor a mere contest of knights for glory. It is the last judicial duel in the history of France. Before we dive into the details of this astonishing story, don't forget to support the channel by subscribing and turning on the bell so you never miss our new content. Here, we strive to bring history back to life as if you were there yourself. The story begins in the 14th century, at a time when France was living through some of its darkest days. The 100 Years' War with England had drained the kingdom. Poverty, famine, and plague devastated both towns and villages. In this grim climate, a knight named Jean de Carrouges rose to prominence. Jean was born into a small noble family in northern France. He was not one of the great lords, nor did he belong to the oldest aristocratic houses, but he carried noble blood, and from childhood he was raised on the values of courage and chivalry. He learned how to wield a sword, how to ride a horse, and how to be ready to sacrifice his life for honor. From his youth, Jean fought in battles against the English and gained a reputation as a hardened knight, fearless in combat. Yet he was not alone in this world of swords and courts. There was another knight whose path would forever cross his, Jacques Le Gris. Jacques was different. He was not braver than Jean, but he was far more cunning and much closer to the royal court. He was a close companion of Count Pierre d'Alençon, the powerful lord who controlled vast estates in the region. And here began the seeds of envy, suspicion, and tension. At first, the rivalry between Jean and Jacques seemed natural, competing over land, over influence, over favor with the count. But as time passed, this rivalry turned into hidden hostility, then into open hatred. The spark that set the feud ablaze came because of a woman, Marguerite, the young and noble wife of Jean de Carrouges. During Jean's absence, she claimed that Jacques Le Gris forced his way into her home and assaulted her. This was in the year 1386. Imagine the impact of such an accusation in medieval France. It was not merely a private crime, but a scandal that struck at the very heart of a knight's honor and threatened his social standing. Jean would not allow the matter to pass in silence. He turned to the courts, but Jacques was shielded by the power of his influential friends, especially the count himself. Jean realized justice would not be found in the courts, so he demanded something rare and dangerous, a trial by combat. In that era, it was believed that God was the supreme judge. If two men fought before the eyes of the people, then God would grant victory to the innocent and doom the guilty. Thus, King Charles VI agreed to authorize the duel. On a cold December day, all of Paris gathered. Nobles, soldiers, common men and women, even churchmen. Everyone wanted to witness the rare spectacle. Two men battling to the death in the name of divine justice. Jean de Carrouges entered the arena on his horse, his armor gleaming, his face grim. On the other side appeared Jacques Le Gris, confident, aware that any mistake could cost him his life. The duel began. The clash of steel filled the air, the crash of iron upon iron, the roars of the crowd, blood spraying, and two men fighting as if the world itself depended on their blows. The struggle was brutal, long, exhausting. Then, in a decisive moment, Jean de Carrouges managed to throw Jacques to the ground. He mounted him, raised his dagger, and plunged it into his enemy's body before the eyes of the king and the crowd. Jacques lay motionless. The duel was over. The judgment declared. Jean was innocent, his wife spoke truth, and God had judged between them. That day marked the last time a judicial duel was ever sanctioned in France. After this, Jean became a hero in the eyes of the people. Yet deep within, he was a changed man. Only a few years later, a new crusade was called to the east, led by Europe's kings and princes, aiming to halt Ottoman expansion. Jean did not hesitate. He took up his sword, mounted his horse, and joined the crusade. It would be the final adventure of his life. In the year 1396, on the banks of the Danube, the Crusaders faced the Ottomans in the Battle of Nicopolis. But arrogance and indiscipline among the European leaders led to disaster. The French knights, Jean among them, launched a reckless charge. They fell straight into the trap of the Ottomans under Sultan Bayezid I. The battle turned into a massacre, and thousands of soldiers were slain. There, in a distant land far from home, Jean de Carrouges fell, the knight who had lived his life defending his honor, only to die in one of the greatest defeats of medieval Europe. The story of Jean de Carrouges embodies the contradictions of his age: personal honor versus political power, individual heroism versus collective tragedy, and the transition from an old world ruled by the sword to a new one governed by law and state. Thus, Jean was not merely an ordinary knight. He was the hero of the last judicial duel in France, and a symbol of an age that vanished forever.